Hello everyone, welcome back to Conversing with Poets. For some reason I got a shot of anxiety, for want of a better word. I don't know why, all of a sudden I got a bit of anxiety before clicking on the camera, but it's all good. We are back. Hello Judge Death. Judge Death says he's more of a jazz guy, but I do like blues. Hello Kaylee, welcome back to Conversing with Poets. Good to see you. Hello Delgo, good to see you. We do have 8 people watching right away off the bat, so if you're watching this and you're not in the chat box right now, do say hello. Don't be shy. We're just here to converse and discuss. I did promise you guys that I would show you a bloopers video, because we were talking about bloopers and I was telling you about the fact that I do have members only videos that are bloopers already on the channel, so I will start off by showing you one of those, which should be fun. But I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes for people to pop in and say hello in the chat so we know we're all here. Before we get started, I just want to say, if you're watching this as a playback, please, I still want to leave a comment down in the comment section. I still want to hear from you guys, even if you're watching it as a playback and not live. Also, don't forget to hit like on this. That's for you guys as well that are watching live. Don't forget to hit the like button, because when it gets uploaded as a playback, the more likes we have, the better it gets sent out to people. Benny, hello, welcome to the stream. Thank you for being here. Hey, haven't tuned into your lives since I was 16, 17. I'm now 20. How have you been? Wow, what a gap. How are you finding the 20s, Benny? I hope I'm saying that right. I've been okay, thank you. Hey Chris, welcome to the chat. And thanks for saying hello as well, guys. This is all about just kind of going live and chatting with you guys, reconnecting with you guys, because I've been a bit quiet. If you didn't watch the one, I can't even remember when we did it, guys. When did we do the last live? Was it Friday? No, it was Thursday night, right? If you didn't watch that, then yeah, basically the whole idea of these live streams is to start making content again. And as Venny just said, he was 16, 17 when he was last in a live stream. He's now 20. Or she, sorry. I assumed that. My bad. I always do that. I apologize. Hey Nikki, welcome back. Welcome to the live stream. I'm just gonna have a sip of coffee. Thursday, yeah, I thought so. Let me move over this side a little bit so I'm not covered by the chat. So I do have a couple of notes as well on my phone, which is just here. So if you see me look here, that's just because I'm trying to figure out what we're doing. What I will say before we get started is, again, this is just the whole idea of these live streams is to just kind of have a discussion with you guys. So I will of course do my best to keep the conversation going, but it is a two-way relationship, so don't be shy to get involved in the chat, because the more you are, the more the conversation will evolve and flow, and it will just be a better experience for everyone. So with that being said, I do have 2 topics of discussion for this live stream. They aren't too controversial, I don't think, but it's okay. What I want to say is, it's okay if you have a different opinion than mine. It's okay to express that difference of opinion. That's what life is about. We can't all have the same opinion. I just ask that we keep it respectful in the chat. Keep in mind that, you know, it's okay for people to think differently than us, and it's okay to have a healthy debate, but we don't want any hate. We don't want any rudeness. I want to steer clear of politics and religion and stuff like that. But don't be afraid to put your opinions in the chat box. I'm going to quickly catch up in the chat box. Speaking of, where have you been, sir? You've been missed. Thank you. Do you know what? I've absolutely been buzzing the last couple of days since Thursday's live stream. It was such a great... I need to stop saying it was such a great live stream, and even after the fact, you guys sent me messages on the Poetry Cove and stuff, and I was just really buzzing with love. So thank you so much for all your kind messages. Yeah, you got my name right. Glad you have been okay. 20s is stressful. Hopefully we'll see more of you. Yes, and yeah, my pronouns are she, her. Okay, cool. Not sure how to tag on here. Yeah, I'm not sure how you do that, actually. You did right, Benny. Okay, cool. So we're all caught up in the chat. Kaylee is here, and I believe it was Kaylee that brought up the discussion of bloopers. So I did quickly pick one out. I thought we'd start with that for a bit of fun, and then we'll get into the discussion. So let me see if I can pull that up now. I don't. That live subscriber count isn't working at the moment, so ignore that. That pop up. It didn't pop up. Why did that not pop up? Huh. Are you guys seeing the pop up of the bloopers? I tell you what, let me go into properties and let me try that again, because it's not showing up on mine. There we go. There we go. Okay, before I get started, I will just... Actually, I can't check the chat, so I'm just going to play this and then we'll talk afterwards. Hopefully this works. So, I've never done this before. I just want to double check in the chat. Was you guys getting the audio from this video through? I really hope you say yes, because if you say no, you couldn't hear it, then we're in trouble. Because I don't know how to get the audio going if that's the case. In fact, if I just turn my volume up, it should. This might be very laggy, but let's see if this works. So why be around the bush? That's in focus. So I hope I'm in focus too. It would kind of suck. I just probably messed it up even more. So let's hope. So it's probably here. I honestly don't. These books are filled with poems. Obviously. But what I do want to talk about is what makes these two books really special. But what I do want to talk about is and also why they're an absolute. But what I do want to talk about is why these books are both so beautiful, so special, and why I love them so much, and why every single poem, every single poet, and why every single poet I don't know if that worked. I really hope that worked. I really hope that worked. Did you guys hear it? I need to catch up on the chat real quick. There we go. There's the audio. Okay, so the audio wasn't working without my mic being activated, but hopefully it worked. I'll have to watch that back. Oh, hey, Baby Mango. Thanks for stopping by again. Yeah, I mean, I fumble over my words. I mean, if you watch my videos regularly, I don't think there's many videos where I don't fumble over my words. And if it's a case of me leaving it in the actual video, then there's probably an abundance of outtakes where I just kind of got fed up and was like, okay, I'm just going to leave that in. It was a little choppy with the sound. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm really sorry about that. I'll have to look into how to share a window and keep its audio, I guess. So I'm sorry about that, but hopefully you got the gist of it. That was just because I promised you guys in the last live stream. So what else have I got? Yes, done that. Oh yeah, the last live stream we did on Thursday, the playback has nearly got 100 views on it. So if you're watching this and you haven't seen Thursday's live stream yet, open it in a new tab, watch it after this, and if we can get it to 100 views within a couple of days, I'd be very, very appreciative. So thank you. Oh my god, your mug, where did you get it? Amazon. Amazon has everything. No worries. Also, you buy a poetry book, you kind of want it filled with poets. No. Yeah, exactly. This book is full of poems, obviously, yes. So that's that one. Yeah. I saw today, I don't know if anyone in here is a fan of like history and stuff. If you've heard of Time Team, I don't know if that's just a UK thing or if they're shown around the world, but there's a YouTube channel called Time Team, and yesterday they uploaded a episode on Shakespeare. They're excavating and trying to find the original foundation of Shakespeare's house. I started watching it earlier, but I couldn't focus, so I'm going to watch that after this. But if anyone's interested, if anyone's a fan of Shakespeare like I am, after this, why not go and give it a watch? Yes, Time Team rocks. Yes, exactly. So they uploaded a Shakespeare one yesterday. So that should be enjoyable. Okay. Okay, cool. So I love me some Time Team. I'll have to check that out. Okay, cool. I'm not alone. All right. That's great. We've all got the same interest. Time Team. Oh, wow. That sounds really interesting. Yeah, so as I say, I started watching it, but I couldn't focus on it, so I'm going to watch it after this. But essentially, you might have actually even seen Time Team still going. I think it's only a YouTube channel now, but it's still like high production value and stuff. But I think it's just a YouTube channel now. Anyway, in Stratford, there's a place called the New Place, which is essentially where his house was, where his house stood. But they recently discovered some new floor plans, and it apparently, again, I haven't seen the whole episode because I turned it off, but there is evidence of his actual house standing a little bit further back. If you haven't been to Stratford, there is actually an On the Hunt video. I think it's episode 2, and we kind of do walk around Stratford, so you might get a feel for it in that video if you want to watch that video. So, okay, cool. So let's start with the first topic of discussion. I briefly mentioned it in my Megan Fox. Hey Tanya, welcome to the live stream. How are you doing? Putting up my Christmas tree. Excellent. I briefly mentioned this at the end of my Megan Fox video, and I thought it would be cool to kind of get your thoughts on it. Hey Holly, welcome back. Welcome back to the live stream. Hey S, happy to see you streaming. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be back. I'm genuinely really happy to be back. There's old TT episodes on channel 4. Okay, hey Renee. We don't have Time Team in the US. But you might be able to get it on YouTube. And I tell you what is a really interesting one. It's how I discovered that they've got a YouTube channel. We'll get back to the discussion topic in a second. There's a really interesting one on the 101st Airborne. I found it really interesting because I'm really into World War II history. Band of Brothers I've watched and read. And they actually excavate a old English village, which is where the 101st Airborne were based before they went off to France. And that's really interesting too. So as a US citizen, you might find that interesting too. So, okay, now you're testing me. Niaba stream? Maybe you can help me with that one. Maybe if you can put it in the chat how it's pronounced, so I can make sure that I'm saying it correctly. So, topic of discussion. I said it at the end of the Megan Fox video. Someone submitted a poem to the Poetry Cove magazine. and it was a poem about how they don't enjoy trigger warnings and how they prefer to just kind of be hit in the stomach with the emotional impact that a poem carries. And I've been thinking about it, or I had been thinking about it a lot, because, and I mentioned this in the Megan Fox video, recently I found myself triggered, and I never really thought of myself as someone who could get triggered, right? But for those who may not know, an actor called Matthew Perry passed a few weeks ago, who was Chandler on Friends, and I grew up with Friends, as a lot of people did, and so I kind of went back through all his different interviews and stuff, and there was one that I come across, and it was talking about alcohol and how alcohol made him feel, and how it was the only time he ever felt normal, and how the world just seemed to work and all the stars had aligned and stuff, and that kind of reminded me of how it used to make me feel, and it triggered me a little bit. And so now my opinion on trigger warnings is slightly different, and I kind of wanted to start a little discussion about how people feel about trigger warnings and before poems and stuff. And do you think that it reduces the impact that a poem might have? Like, I think I described it in the Megan Fox video, it's without the trigger warning, it's like a sucker punch right in the feels, you know, an emotional sucker punch. You weren't expecting it, and then it hits you, and you kind of, at least I do, it hits you and you sit there with it for a while. Or do you think that the trigger warning disrupts that and it's not as powerful? I personally can see a case for both. In the end, and I said this in the Megan Fox video, I think trigger warnings are important and we should probably have them. But I also can kind of see where this particular poet was coming from when he said that it ruins the surprise, if you like. That was not their words. That is me summarizing what they were saying in this poem. So I'm interested to see what you guys are thinking, and while you hopefully are typing out your response to that, I'm going to catch up with the chat. I'm a huge World War II history reader myself too. Yeah, I love it. I just got done reading some SAS books and watching the BBC dramatization of this book on iPlayer. It's called SAS Rogue Heroes. If you haven't seen it, give it a watch and definitely give it a read. So is my father and my son Ryan. They love history. Yeah, I love it. I really do. Glad you're back. Thank you so much, Renee. It's really, I'm really glad to be back. I think it is possible for a trigger warning to subtract from the poem's power, but I understand some people feel better having them. Yeah. Yeah, and again, I can see the point for both sides of the story. I do think sometimes when reading a poem that hasn't got a trigger warning to it and it hits me, I feel like it does leave a bigger impact personally. But having been triggered recently myself, I can now see the importance of them, and you know, I now know to tread lightly. So if I see a trigger warning about certain topics that might trigger me, I know that I can either take a deep breath and you know, go on a journey, or I can choose to maybe skip it this time round and maybe come back to it in the future, or maybe not at all. You know, it's very hard, isn't it? Because we're all different, we're all humans, and we all are naturally going to react to things differently. So maybe this is a hard question to throw at all of you, but I know you're all mature enough to you know, discuss it respectfully, and I just thought it would be an interesting thing to discuss. I think if it's something sensitive such as addiction, as an addict myself, I would definitely appreciate a warning. I think, yes, it does take away that extreme emotional response. That is kind of the intention, if that makes sense. I appreciate having the option to see trigger warnings. Sometimes they're more necessary as mental health fluctuates. Absolutely. And there you go, exactly. So something that might not trigger me today could trigger me tomorrow. So that's another thing you have to take into consideration as well. That's a very good point, actually. Thank you, S. I think either way is fine, but readers shouldn't put down a poet author for not putting a trigger warning. Interesting, yeah. I think either way is fine, but readers shouldn't put a poet author down for not putting a trigger warning. I can definitely see both sides, but I also think there is a fine line between emotional punch and jarring someone. I think I'd continue putting them as to not cause distress, but I see both sides. I personally think that there should be a trigger warning so that people are aware and then they can have the choice for themselves. Poetry can touch people so deeply, especially people who suffer from PTSD or were victims of abuse. Yeah, it's a tough one. My husband has been triggered by things that are close to his experiences, but I think we also have the responsibility to do the work to address the wound that is affected. Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Of course. And as I say, I think I know I've definitely landed on the fact that I think trigger warnings aren't necessary. And I really like the fluctuates things statement, because I think that's such a good point. That I feel like I might have had in the back of my head but never realized. So thank you for bringing that one up. You know, because you kind of have to think, and I'm just riffing here, you kind of have to think about, you have to weigh it up whether someone's possible overall enjoyment of that emotional punch is worth more than the possibility of it triggering someone and sending them down a dark path. You know, is it really worth it? Probably not. For the sake of you know, a few moments of like, wow, compared to what could be on the other side of that, if that makes sense. I don't know if that made any sense. Warning. Okay. That's my coffee done, so bring on the sore voice. Oh, by the way, guys, it's really, really cold out tonight, so I'm probably not going to be able to turn off my heating. It doesn't make a huge difference. You can only really hear it. Excuse me. You can only really hear it when I start talking. Same as the planes. There's one going over now. You can only hear it when I start talking, but I probably wouldn't survive the live stream if I kept the heating off this time. I believe art media should challenge us, but I don't like things just for shock value. Yeah, of course, if it's absolutely necessary to the point, then it should be included, and a trigger warning might be appropriate. There's too many instances where things are said just to be controversial rather than to address a point. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But that's also, I mean, that's also the point of a poem. A poem should always have a point, and no word should ever be wasted in a poem, right? No sentence. I think we said that on Thursday's stream as well. They can be useful, but I think it's more a case of where people are in their recovery. Absolutely. And whether they have the tools to handle an unavoidable triggers that are more important. Absolutely. I totally understand PTSD. Ryan suffers from it. He was in and out of rehab 4 times before giving up drinking. It's 3.5 years sober. Wow. Well done, Ryan. Still a battle every day. Yeah. When there are trigger warnings on TV shows, etc., I don't think it takes away the emotional impact. Right. And things like poetry are so often therapy for the writer. I would prefer to see a content warning on a book rather than on each interval. Okay, now there's a good point. Wednesday's Child, Nikki, brings up. I never know whether to say Nikki or to address you by your channel name. That goes for Nano as well. Last live stream I realised I was calling you Nano, and I don't know if you would prefer to be called your channel name. But that's a very good point, guys. So would you rather the trigger warning being at the start of the book and then sort of leave the poetry, or would you prefer each poem to have a trigger warning? And I have to be honest with you guys, I never really thought about this until I saw that particular poet's submission. I never really thought about trigger warnings and what they give compared to what they take away. And by the takeaway, I'm talking about this sort of gut punch. I never really thought about it, and it kind of came at the right time because I'd never been triggered before as well. So that's why I'm kind of bringing it up. But that's a really good point that Nikki raises. Would you rather it at the start of the book or on each poem? Nikki is fine, thank you. I think it also depends on the severity of the topic. If a poem lightly mentions something, then it may not be necessary. But if it's very detailed, it could trigger some. I understand either way. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It might not be necessary if it's just brushed past, but if it's a whole poem dedicated, and again, depending on the detail it goes into. I'm just remembering, for those of you who have been long-time subscribers, I did a poetry collection review by Steve Bruce. And I think it was called Something Knuckles. Does anyone remember me doing that? It was a very dark collection and went into detail, but I liked it. But I can't remember if there was any trigger warnings on it. And again, I'm not, as has been said in the chat, I'm not putting Steve Bruce down for not putting a trigger warning. I'm just, the comment about going into detail just reminded me of that book. It also touches on free speech, I think. People believe that they should say something because they can. Most times, just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. Yeah, absolutely. Good point. I'm fine with Nano. Cool. I didn't realise until after the fact, but I'm glad. I didn't want to, I didn't mean to sort of say the wrong name. The content warning on the book isn't a bad idea at all. Yeah, no, and I think it goes back to what was mentioned in the movies and the TV show. You know, it's mentioned at the start of the episode, and then the episode is left to play out. So, and likewise movies. So is it better to just have it at the start of the book and not again? Or, you know, because there's always the risk that people don't read the foreword or anything like that. Maybe you could put it on the blurb. I'm not sure. This is what I want these live streams to be about, just kind of getting together, hanging out, and talking about different topics. I think trigger warnings for the book as a whole and a page at the back with individual poem triggers could work. You wouldn't have to see it if you didn't want to. And yeah, interesting. I feel like a lot of artists put trigger warnings on paintings and illustrations. Sorry, my eyes went blurry then. If it's triggering, even if it's a personal piece. Let me start that again, because my eyes went all funny. They gave up on me for a second. I feel like a lot of artists put trigger warnings on paintings and illustrations. If it's triggering, even if it's a personal piece that's posted. I feel the same should go for poetry. Yeah, could you, yeah. I feel like a lot of artists put trigger warnings on paintings and illustrations if it's triggering, even if it's a personal piece that's posted. I feel the same should go for poetry. Yeah, absolutely. Even if it's a personal piece, you know, even though it's personal to us, right? Other people are reading it and can relate. So I feel having the warning on the book allows you to make the decision to walk through it blind. But there is also a warning. The individual will know whether they'll become back of the cover woodwork too. Yeah. Possibly have a trigger warning next to each poem that is triggering in the contents. Yeah. So it seems like we're a bit mixed here. Some are saying next to every piece of poetry, or every poem, should I say? I don't know why I said it in such a long-winded way there. And some are saying, you know, just at the start or at the back would be fine. Can't remember either, Adam. What was that for, Tanya? What do you mean you can't remember either? Are you talking about maybe the video? The video review I did on Steve Bruce. I think it was called White Knuckle or something, and the cover was a fist. It had some really powerful poetry in it. I remember really liking that collection. I'm gonna have to dig that out. Maybe I'll dig that out for next live stream. It was really powerful, but I can't remember if it had any trigger warnings on it. We've currently got 16 viewers, guys. If you're here and you want to get involved in the chat, please get involved as much as you feel comfortable in doing. As I've said at the top of this video, we're all here to be respectful. It's okay to have a different opinion to myself and others in the chat, as long as we are respectful about it and we understand that it's okay to have differing opinions, and we don't hate on each other. I think, unfortunately, we live in a world at the moment where so many people get really, really angry if someone has a different opinion than themselves, and they send so much hate. There's so much hate in the world right now just for people having difference of opinion. And that's what makes the world interesting, people having different opinions and coming together like this and respectfully talking about it. So yeah, if you're currently watching and not getting involved in the chat, please do feel encouraged to do so if you feel comfortable doing so. If you just want to sit back and watch, that's totally fine as well. One thing I do ask is, if you're watching and you're enjoying, please do hit that like button if you haven't already, because as I say, it really helps the channel, it really helps the algorithm, and when this gets uploaded as a playback, it will have those likes already, so it will get pushed out to more of my subscribers. So I'd really appreciate that. It's so good to see more faces in here as well. I can't believe Venny, I think it was Venny, wasn't it? You were 16, 17 on the last live stream. Now you're 20. That's crazy. Thank you for that love heart. I just caught that love heart. Yeah, hit that heart on the chat box as well. Also, if you don't want to ruin that surprise element, you can always be generic with trigger warnings. For example, trigger warning addiction could be for smoking, drugs, or alcohol. Yeah, absolutely. If it were my book, I would have a warning in the contents next to the poem. The last thing I want to do is cause stress or upset somebody. That is the best emotion. That isn't the best emotion you want connected to your work. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And it goes back to what I said about weighing up the what would you give someone without the trigger warning versus what would you give someone. Hang on. It goes back to weighing up whether or not it's worth potentially giving someone that feeling for all of maybe a day if you're lucky, versus potentially sending someone down that bad path for weeks, months, if not longer. Is it worth not putting a trigger warning in just for that impact, and that person could feel great for a day and then move on and read someone else's poem, and that's that, right? Versus someone reading it, getting triggered, and potentially going down a very dark path. I put a trigger warning on my poem I submitted because it lets people who had that experience read if they were ready to read that content, or just skip if they wouldn't want to upset anyone. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be honest with you, Kaylee, so that the poet I'm talking about that submitted a poem about not wanting trigger warnings was actually in the same batch of submissions that I received your poem in. So it was for this winter issue that's just come out. If you don't know, by the way, guys, I've published Kaylee a couple of times in the Poetry Cove magazine, so do grab a copy and you'll be able to read some of Kaylee's poems. 11 likes. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Okay, if we are done discussing the trigger warnings, and we can always come back to things as well. We can always come back to things. That's totally fine. 12 likes. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. I see you hitting that like button for me. Friendships are lost, and family members, they can't agree on differences of opinions. Yes, and as I say, look, we all are going to have similar opinions, and we're also going to have differing opinions, and as long as we respect each other as human beings and open ourselves to the possibility of different ideas, then we can have a great live stream series here. 13 likes. Thank you so much, guys. There's a lot of catastrophe happening in the world, such as natural disasters and wars around the world, so I think in today's time we should be more considerate, especially those topics. Yeah, I don't want to talk about politics and stuff like that, just because I don't want any chance of things going nasty. I know you guys are all lovely people, but let's just have a no-go zone on politics and religion, if that's okay. I think this is also where editing comes into play. If you have a varied collection, don't put a don't put a triggering poem in amongst a load of fairy tale narrative poems. Yes, exactly. Exactly, and that would just be an very emotionally jarring, even if you don't get triggered by things. You know, a lot of people, I think it's actually been said in this chat, a lot of people do things for the sake of doing it, for, you know, to be cool and artsy. But, you know, if I'm reading a load of nice romantic poems and then bang in the middle is a dark poem about triggering subjects, I'm not going to think that that's a cool artistic move. I'm going to think that's a bit of a dick move, to be honest with you. And it's just going to, like, emotionally jar me so much that you risk me closing the cover, right? When I put my collections together, I try and have a bunch of poems about one subject, and then a bunch of poems about another subject, and a bunch about another subject, and then maybe a bunch of the first, you know, so that it's not just like one bang craziness. It kind of, hopefully, I don't know. It's what I try to do anyway. I probably don't succeed. See, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, that's what I like to do as well. I haven't personally experienced what you're saying about, you know, loads of nice lovey-dovey fairy tale stuff with a triggering poem bang in the middle. I haven't personally experienced that, so I can only imagine what my response might be to that. But it would probably put me off more than anything, because it wouldn't feel considered. It wouldn't feel considered, and if things don't feel considered, they usually stick out. And it would probably put me off. I don't know, but that's me, right? That's me. I can only speak about myself. If anyone disagrees with that, I love thinking about and I try to think about every side of every chain of thought and how others might react. So if anyone disagrees with that point about having a random dark subject sandwiched by completely irrelevant topics, please let me know in the chat and let me know, or let us know even, your side of your point of view. I'm going to try and turn the heater off just for a little while, and we'll see how cold things get. I do have one more topic of discussion that I might bring up in a minute. See how we go, if all has been said that needs to be said on this subject. I do have one more. And if anyone ever has any questions about things, or has something they wish to discuss themselves, again, like, the floor is yours. I'm so open to you guys bringing topics to me, because I do plan to do these every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. So we will need to be bringing topics of discussion to the table quite frequently. So I may run out of ideas. So please get as involved as you feel comfortable getting as involved as. I'm all for plot twist, but the storyteller in me needs the overarching narrative to make sense. As you can imagine, I'm a nightmare when watching a TV show. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny when I was like writing nerdians and fiction, and I was really studying like storytelling and the hero's journey and everything. It does kind of ruin movies for you, because you're like, oh, okay, we're at this point in the story. We're at this point. Oh, I can probably guess what's about to happen. It's like anything. It's same with acting as well. You know, you kind of same with anything. When you work in that field and you understand that field, it kind of ruins it, because all you can see is the process, if that makes sense. Benny, I agree. I think it could work, but you would have to be very clever with it for it to actually work as intended. Yes. Oh, ads will run shortly for some viewers. I thought I had turned that off, so let's skip the ads. Okay, I thought I had turned that off. There are poets that are just big trigger warning in themselves. If you read Sylvia Plath, for example, you know what you're in for. Yeah, exactly. I mean, she was obviously around in a different time when trigger warnings weren't weren't a prominent thing, right? But yeah, if you get to a point in your career, if you're successful enough, that people know what they're in for. You know, Edgar Allan Poe, for example, you know what you're getting. That's funny. It makes it more fun for me. Okay, interesting. For me, it's kind of like, I just wish I'd be able to shut off my brain when I'm sitting there watching a movie and I'm not going, okay, we're in, you know, this part in the hero's journey or whatever, how the hero's journey works, etc. I love studying it, but as I say, I like to be able to turn the brain off and just sit there and enjoy. Yeah, like another one, Bukowski. Exactly, Bukowski is another one that you know what you're in for when you open the book. Okay, so let's maybe move on to the next topic for discussion. I think we kind of all understand where we're at with the trigger warnings. And again, it's sorry for those that are watching live, but if you're watching playback, just because we've had this discussion live, please, if you want to get involved, leave a comment down below. Not only is it good for the algorithm in the playback version, but I will certainly come back and read the comments and leave replies. And who knows, maybe some of these amazing people that are watching the live might even come back and check the comments, and the discussion can go on. I just watched a video of Sylvia's grave, and it's the most beautiful grave I've seen. The grave itself is poetic. I would love to visit there someday. I recommend looking it up. Yeah, so we were talking actually, weren't we, on Thursday in the last live stream about morbid curiosity and different famous poets' graves. I think there's a poetry cover who went to Sylvia Plath's grave. I'm almost certain that they did. There's even a thread, I think, in possibly general discussion on the Cove about being by gravestones or something. I don't know. Oh no, it's Wearing Cove Merchant Historic Places, and a couple of us were at gravesides. So let's move on to the second discussion. I again mentioned it in the Megan Fox video, and it's something that's been playing on my mind for quite a while actually. And before getting into it, I want to acknowledge that I am aware that I'm a part of it. I was part of everything, jumping on the Gabby Hanna bandwagon, if you like. But I want to talk about the criticism of bad poetry. I have a video titled, "Is Bad Poetry Ruining Our Craft?" So, yeah, I want to start by saying I acknowledge my role that I may or may not have played in it. I'm only a small YouTuber. There are much bigger YouTubers than me. But I have been thinking about the whole, whether or not the harsh criticism of collections by Gabby Hanna and others, Rupi Kaur, in my opinion, again, we're all different. Art is subjective. If you like Rupi Kaur, if you liked Gabby Hanna's book, that's really great. I'm glad that you can get enjoyment from those books. Personally, I can't. But that's not what I want to discuss, whether we like this and we don't like that. What I want to discuss is whether we think the harsh criticism that came out about all of this, do we think that maybe had a detrimental effect on, say, younger people, 13-year-olds possibly, and maybe not even that, maybe young adults, maybe older adults, just people who have a love for poetry and might want to dip their toes in? Do you think videos such as mine discussing certain types of poetry has put them off? And if so, do you think that there's something that can be done about it? Criticisms are okay, but it should be respectful. That's why I like your channel. You're professional in your reviews. Thank you very much. So yeah, when I said it in the Megan Fox video, I was very considerate with this in my head. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I was so scared when I opened up that. I'm gonna have to turn the heating on again. Sorry, guys. I was so scared opening up that parcel and beginning the review that it was not going to be enjoyable for me. But I actually genuinely enjoyed it, and I genuinely think you should pick up a copy. I think it's got a good balance of modern poetry and what are called crafted poetry. I know criticism is fine, but there are people who are overly harsh. Yeah, and that's what I was worried about. My point of view is that criticism is important. In fact, I think it's important. But in this day and age where content creators are always chasing trends, myself included, I'm not going to lie, I pre-ordered Megan Fox's poetry because I knew that it would be a good video to bring in viewers, right? That's the whole point of content creation. But I think we live in a world where people jump on trends. We live in a world where everyone enjoys, I don't know, how can I put this? I think we live in a world where hateful comments is a trend in itself, let's say that. And yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, are people being really harsh with their criticism because they really genuinely despise the work, or are they doing it just because that's what's popular? I think criticism is very important. I think it's important that if something comes across as particularly lazy, and I hope I can say this because Gabby Hanna came out herself and said that in the second book particularly, there was a lot of deadline chasing, and so she didn't think about the poems as much as she should have. So I will use Gabby Hanna as a bit of an example in that sense. I think it's okay to criticize that, because I don't think that's healthy for the craft moving forward, to encourage the thought that... One example I've used in the past, and this is genuinely what I saw advertised on Instagram as Insta poetry, and it was, I saw her and immediately I loved her. And it had like 100,000 likes, and I don't get it. For me, I don't get it. And I think it's important to raise that point of view, because it might and hopefully it will encourage people to take the craft of poetry a bit more serious and be a bit more considerate. I'm going to look in the chat in a second. I know I've been talking a while. I just need to make sure I voice what I have in here properly so it doesn't get misunderstood. I think it's dangerous to encourage that kind of thing, and it might encourage people to look deeper into the craft and take it more seriously. Anyway, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to catch up with the chat. Gone too far. The risk of trolling, I know criticism is fine, but okay, that's where we got to. The risk of trolling has stopped me from publicly sharing my work. It's all incredibly personal. This is what I was worried about. So this is what I've been thinking. Constructive criticism from peers is fine, but the way people bandwagon is scary. So this is exactly what I was thinking and getting at. I feel like you can 100% have bad and good work in an academic sense. An artistic view is a bit different. Yeah. So I feel criticism is important in the academic viewpoint because that's how you improve. Yeah, exactly. I like to read Edgar Allan Poe and Rossetti. Two amazing poets. I did an On the Hunt video on Rossetti. Edgar Allan Poe, I haven't because he's in America, I assume. I'm going to have to look up where he's buried. I think people do it because they can. There's little consequence from behind a computer screen. And I think this is a huge issue we're facing in our day and age. Would people do it to people's faces? We should inspire people to improve on their passion, but many people on YouTube are harshly critiquing because it gets views. Being rude gives content creators more money, and it's sad. Respectfully. Yeah. Can help a person improve. Yeah, and I think that's my mission going forward. Like, if I see something I don't like, I will say it because I think it's important to be said, but do it in a respectful way, constructive way, and hopefully a way to inspire that particular author to maybe make some changes, and anyone watching to kind of stop thinking that they get writing poetry is an easy ride. Because sometimes I think people might think writing poetry is an easy ride. And for some it is. For some it is. And that's okay. That's okay. You know, maybe I'm just old. Maybe I'm just getting old. I'm becoming one of them old people that are like, oh, the youth of today, you know, they don't know what they're missing on. Maybe that's the problem. For the record, I'm only 31, but mentally and my soul is 96. It's just, more people need to take the poet's author's mental health into consideration, because harsh words can destroy somebody's passion. Yeah. Yeah, and that's why, sorry to keep bringing it up, but that's why on the Poetry Cove I made 2 separate forums. One specifically for constructive feedback and one for just sharing your poem, because I think it's important that, for me, I envisioned someone coming to the Poetry Cove and sharing their poem for the first time, and someone giving unsolicited feedback and destroying them. And talking about mental health, this is why I feel so bad, because I think whether or not you liked Gabby Hanna's poetry, at the end of the day, she's still human, and she took a beating, and from what I last heard, she's going through some stuff. People will say horrible things and then move on unaffected, but the person attacked can be scarred for life. 100%. 100%. Guys, can you let me know, because I'm scrolling up and down the chat on my desktop. Is it affecting what you guys see? It shouldn't do, but I don't want to be scrolling up in the chat and then you guys miss out the chat on the screen. So let me know if your chat box is all good. Scarred for life. It's sad that trolling and bullying have become a trend. It stops people from sharing their work. Criticism is important as long as it's respectful and constructive. 100%. I've seen some YouTubers be needlessly harsh. Who is anybody else to trash somebody else's effort? That's pretentious and doesn't add anything to their conversations. Yeah. Gabby Hanna's poetry books are actually puzzles, which nobody realised, as OCD exposure therapy, specifically the illustrations. Gabby Hanna's poetry books are actually puzzles which nobody realised, and has OCD exposure therapy. Okay, specifically the illustrations. Okay, I did not know that. What review is this? I'm just talking about in general, but I made a Gabby Hanna review, and it was so long ago I can't remember, but I feel like I wasn't as balanced or considerate as I'm trying to be in my more recent review videos. But I'm talking in general anyway. I think in terms of the impact made, I don't think my videos made any impact. There are other YouTubers who made videos with a much bigger audience than I did that made a much bigger impact. It's interesting as some criticize others. And before I say anything, I'm not like bagging on those content creators either. You know, I just want to open a discussion. Well, it doesn't matter whether I think what other content creators are doing is right or wrong. I kind of want to know what the general consensus is. And it seems like we all have the same opinion. But again, if you're watching this and you're not getting involved in the chat and you do have a different opinion, it's actually really important that you do get that point across so that we can all think about it and debate it and think, oh yeah, actually that's a good point. That's what we're all here to do. That's what I want these live streams to do. So please, you know, we're all friendly in the chat. We're not going to bite your arm off. It's interesting as some criticize others from a point of feeling superior, while it stems from frustration for others who spend years my chat's spilling their effort into the work to feel it's not recognized. Yeah, and I can understand that feeling. I can understand that feeling. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm here to be honest with all of you. I can understand that feeling. I'm not going to tell you the name of this Instagram page. You likely may have come across it. I'm not going to tell you the name of it. But this particular Instagram account has 4 books, gets over 100,000 likes on every post, and most of their poems are "I saw her and immediately I loved her." That's the majority of the posts. So yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I feel frustrated when I see that, but it is what it is. No, it's just scrolling for you, mate. Okay, cool. Thank you. We never know if the author poet is autistic or homeless or just being abused. We never actually know what a person is going through. Yeah, that's true. Look, and that's, you know, we don't even have to go to the extremes of homelessness, you know, and abuse. As true as that is, baby mango, but we don't even have to go to those extremes. We don't know what a person is going through at any time. Someone might even just, you know, be having a bad day and then see some criticism, and it lasts forever. As Nikki said, it scars. It does happen. It does happen. I think we just need to remember that we're all humans at the end of the day, and if we're criticizing something, as warranted as it may be, we just have to remember to be considerate and remember that we're all humans. Thank you, Wednesday. I have a whole video deciphering Gabby Hanna's poetry book. They're both puzzles. Okay, I'll definitely look into that, baby mango, because that sounds interesting. I dabble. Oh, it's glitched again. Where are you, Chris? I dabbled with poetry a few years ago, but was put off by negative comments from friends. I'm only just getting back out there, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. But I'm glad you're back on the horse, Chris. I'm glad you're back on the poetry wagon. Stick with it. Stick with it. It's a beautiful art form. But poetry shouldn't be a puzzle. Interesting. Okay, poems shouldn't be so obscure that you can't understand them. Interesting. Now, I love a good metaphor and stuff, but I also do agree that they shouldn't be so obscure that you can't understand them. I need to stop saying However, some of the most famous poems are really great extended metaphors and stuff that people enjoy deciphering. So this is a really great sort of fork in the road that I'm talking about, where some people will be on this side of the fence and some people will be on that side of the fence. That's a really interesting one. How do we feel about poems being puzzled? Actually, save that one because I'm going to go and boil a kettle. I'm going to go and brew a coffee in a second. So save the obscure poems for the second half of the stream. Wow, you guys are really blowing up the chat. I love it. I keep losing my place. That's a good thing. Make books more interactive. I think people got frustrated because if some of these books were sent to a publisher, they wouldn't get anywhere. It's their celebrity. Yeah. I used to post my poetry on public sites. I stopped doing so. I'm so sorry about that. Because I had people stalking me. Oh, I didn't. I stopped at doing so, and then I continued. That wasn't where I thought it was going. But I'm sorry you went through that. Criticism as a whole is tricky. It does come down to personal taste. I'm a goth and more extreme in my small town than most, and some of the stuff people have said in person has been worse than online. I'm really sorry about that. Like, genuinely, I'm really sorry about that. The scaring is definitely a real thing. Scarring is definitely a real thing. People can just be cruel. Yeah. I'm not a poet, but I believe that poetry comes from the heart. Why would someone want to break that? And criticism should be asked for and not be given freely. Yeah, and that's why I set it up that way on the Cove. Kayla, you keep retracting sentences. That's okay, but I hope it's not because you feel uncomfortable sharing your opinion. Please, we don't want anyone feeling that they can't share their opinion. Are you on the Cove? If not, get signed up. Thank you, Nikki. Yeah, I'm trying to get back on there after a shamefully prolonged absence. Yeah, I am trying to get that forum going again. I don't know how to get that forum going again. If you have any suggestions, that'd be great. My messages aren't working. I tell you what, Kaylee, I'm going to go for a coffee break now. So we're going to take 5 minutes, everyone, so I can go and get a drink because I'm getting a dry throat with this heater on. Whilst I'm away, try refreshing the browser or the stream. That might work. So, don't know what the Cove is. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, Nikki, I'm gonna leave that one with you because I'm gonna take 5 minutes to go get a coffee. When we come back, we're gonna talk about how obscure is too obscure in a poem. That sounds like a good topic of discussion. So give me 5 minutes. I'm gonna play your jam, Judge Death, and we'll be back soon. See you in 5. Okay, hello. I know we lost a couple of people for the second half. That's okay. You're probably not still here watching, but goodbye anyway. Hello, are we still here? Are we ready for the second part of the live stream? If you are, spam that love. Oh dear. Hang on. There we go. I was enjoying the blues. I was enjoying the blues song. I quite like it. So I was listening to that as I was getting ready to start again, and I forgot to mute it again. So sorry for the headache you just experienced, no doubt. So nobody here will think you're mad. We are a friendly bunch. Yes. What's that to? I refreshed. Okay, I hope it fixes itself. Okay, yeah. I hope you're okay, Kaylee. I was wondering what was happening there. I'm not gonna lie, but no worries. Technical issues happen all the time. So we are back. I've got my coffee, refresh, but it's probably too hot to take a sip of just yet. I burnt myself left, right, and centre last stream for drinking it too soon. So we are back. Hello, welcome back, everyone. Let's talk about how obscure is too obscure in a poem. I think I might open this up to Judge Death first, or would that be too harsh? No, I'll talk until people start leaving their opinions. I don't want to just throw it over to Judge Death. So yeah, I know a poet who wrote poetry, funnily enough, and I didn't understand any of their poems, and I felt so bad about it. They're super talented, but my brain is not very good at puzzles, I guess. And I always felt really bad because I had to ask, oh, what's this poem about? And I think it's also really important to also I have to admit, Judge Death, I don't agree with you entirely, because I do think great poems have puzzles within them and metaphors and extended metaphors. And a lot of times they're the most popular poems because academics loved studying them as well and deciphering them. And I guess it comes down to what mood I'm in. If I'm in if I'm reading poetry in the evening before bed. Oh, by the way, everyone, I've started drinking green tea again since our last live stream. If I'm in bed in the evening reading poetry, then certainly I want to be able to just read it and get it straight away and enjoy it. But sometimes I also want to be able to decipher a poem. So, yeah, how obscure is too obscure? For example, one of my favorite poems is, those of you who have followed me for a while may know this, I've mentioned it a couple times, but one of my favorite poems is Bluebird by Bukowski. And I think that's a great poem because on the surface, although it's an extended metaphor, right? Well, it's not an extended metaphor. The bird is an extended metaphor, is a metaphor, but the poem isn't an extended metaphor. I think you can kind of, on the surface, understand what he's talking about without digging too deep. But it's also got some puzzles in there that you might only pick up on once you know of Bukowski and his life and the man that he was. So I think maybe Bluebird has a good balance of being an easy read. I'll say that for me it's an easy read, but also having little nuggets underneath the surface that you'll kind of only understand if you piece it together and if you understand the man behind the poem on a deeper level. You'll understand the poem a bit more, if that makes sense. But all art, I'm just scrolling up to start looking through the chat, all art is subjective. And I said this in the last live stream, and this goes back to being respectful with each other in these discussions. All art is subjective. What I like, you guys might not like, and what you guys like, I might not like, and that's okay, as long as we're open to understanding each other and what have you. So There are poems that I don't understand and I think are too obscure. And it goes back to something we were talking about earlier as well, about artists trying to be obscure for the sake of being obscure, which tends to be the worst. The breadcrumb trail is what makes Taylor Swift so popular. There's definitely an audience for it. Yeah, I mean, I'm not super into Taylor Swift, but I know since this whole Eras tour and her new relationship, I've seen a couple of memes or viral short videos going around about how everything's a clue for something or other. Sorry, there was a hair on the webcam. So I know that, yeah, I know this breadcrumb trail thing you're talking about. I know of it. I don't know it too much, but I know that there is stuff like that. And David Bowie did it all the time as well. Let's not forget the great David Bowie, right? I mean, his last album was all a treasure hunt, or whatever you like to call it. Basically saying goodbye, and then a week later, I think it was, after Black Star came out, everyone realised, oh, this whole album was a goodbye. I like metaphors, but there are some that are so obscure you can't make head nor tail of them. But like I said, I'm a contradiction because I write a lot of poems with surreal metaphors. Yeah, of course. And it goes back to I really like the point that Venny made about fluctuating. I think it was Venny that made that point. If it wasn't, and it was you and you're lurking in the chat, please correct me. Things fluctuate. We're human beings, you know, we all fluctuate, and what we like now, we're not going to like in 10 years' time. There might be some things, but not everything. You get my point. So many poems contain puzzles, ciphers, and metaphors. I think that's part of what makes it interesting. Yeah, and I agree. And I also, you know, I talk about what makes a poem, and that's such like, there's a question that's asked all the time. What makes a poem a poem? What makes a good poem a good poem? And it's hard to answer, and everyone's going to have a different answer. This is going to be a running theme in these live streams. It's okay to be different. But the thing I say to that question, what makes a good poem a poem, is the language, the meter of it. And by language, I mean flirtatious. I don't know. There's an air of fantastical speech about a poem, in my opinion. But also the meter of it, and the metaphors and the imagery. I think that's what makes a good classic poem for me. Is you know, ciphers and puzzles. Oh, well, I won't say how I've become an Ed Sheeran fan over the last couple of days. Lols, cheers for that, Adam. Yes, we mentioned about Eminem was mentioned, and I just said that I thought he was, you know, the modern day Shakespeare, and you could argue that Ed Sheeran is up there as well. So I'm glad that you discovered Ed Sheeran from that. Not bad. Still a little bit hot, but I didn't burn myself. Yeah, I think, to sum up my opinion anyway, I think there is definitely a danger of being so cryptic and so obscure that it could put a lot of people off. But there are also an audience for that sort of stuff as well, particularly academics and scholars. So, you know, it's preference. I'm digging the A-Team song. Yeah. Yeah, I was saying to Judge Death on the Cove earlier yesterday. I think it was actually yesterday. I still remember the first time I heard the A-Team. I was in college, was in the car with my girlfriend at the time, and she played it for me. And I said, "Yeah, that's really great, but I don't think I don't see it going very far, because that genre of music doesn't go very far." And in fairness, at the time, it didn't. You know, Jason Mraz, I mentioned, James Blunt, artists like that were big, but they weren't huge. You know, it was all hip hop and rap and Kanye West, you know, at the height. So I remember saying, oh, I don't see this artist going very far. Thank God Ed Sheeran proved me wrong, because he's written some amazing songs. In English in secondary school, we needed to learn the background of the poet and then do a deep dive into the meaning of the poem. It did feel like training to read poetry, if that makes sense. Yeah, and it definitely is. And I think people might underestimate the not necessarily the importance. Yeah, there could be an argument for the importance, but just the extra dimension you get from understanding and knowing the poet behind the poem as well. It will give you a whole other dimension. I don't know if my comments are appearing, but Gabby's puzzles are mathematical, uses numerology. Okay. It was more about the numbers than anything metaphorical. Okay, interesting. I'm going to definitely check out your channel, Baby Mango, and watch these videos so I can see what you're talking about, because, you know, I'm an open person. If there's more to it than met the eye, then maybe I can go back and reconsider. I will check out that remix. I wasn't a fan until recently. I think I said it before, but Hosier's lyrics are very poetic. Hosier is a very popular lyricist as well, and musician, but yeah, his lyricists. Your comments are showing. Yeah, sorry, there was a moment in time where the chat box was going very fast, so I may have struggled to keep up. So I apologize about that. If I miss any of your comments, please just let me know in the comments to scroll up if it gets really busy and I miss things that you might say. So I apologize about that. Nice. That's nice. It's really cool and fun. There's quite a few secret poems that are really sweet and better than the entire books themselves. Okay. I have a video reading each secret puzzle poem. Okay. As I say, after this, I'll definitely check out your streaming and get back to you before, when's the next one? Tuesday. By the way, I'm gonna maybe not. Don't forget to, if you're a subscriber, don't forget to check my community tab. I've already scheduled Tuesday's live stream, so after this is finished, head over there, click on the link and hit notify me. That way you don't forget and miss a live stream. Scott Matthews is an incredible lyricist and storyteller too. Scott Matthews. I'm not sure I've come across Scott Matthews. I'll have to look them up. It is humbling when you read a poem that everyone else understands and you have not a clue. Yeah, that can happen. And hey, look, we're all poets here. Have you guys ever had it when you've written a poem, you've published it, or you've put it out there in the world, and someone messages you and says, this is my favorite poem, I really connected to it because, and the reason they connected to it and the meaning they found within the poem was completely different and separate from what you had while sitting down writing it. That's like a surreal experience, and I really I love it, because it just shows that we're all different and we all have different views and outlooks and you know, ingest things differently. I have it set to notify, mate. I'll be here. Thank you so much, Judge Death. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for all this support. You guys, all of you guys are really making me feel great, and I can't tell you how pumped I was to get to this moment and start streaming again. You guys made me feel really great on Thursday, so I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, really, guys, thank you. I really appreciate that. And, you know, that's what I had hoped for. I would hope that reconnecting with all you amazing people would spur me on to make more content. And as I said, I couldn't wait to get back here and start this tonight. So things are looking good. Things are looking good. And don't forget to bring like ideas for discussions. If you've ever wondered anything you think, oh, that'd be a good idea to bring up on my live stream. Don't be shy, you know, that's what we need. Because again, this is a two-way thing. I can sit here and talk and talk and talk for 2 hours, but it'd be very boring if I didn't have you guys kind of doing your thing in the chat box and what have you. It's nice having you back. Thank you so much. It's good. It really is good to be back. And Bruno's coming over on Friday to shoot a cool little intro thing, so we'll have ride-alongs back as well soon enough. And again, I know I keep saying this, but it's important. If you've just joined us, I can see that there are 9 people watching. If you're watching, please feel encouraged to get involved in the group chat. We're nice people. We don't bite. Obviously, if you really don't feel comfortable with it, that's totally fine. You can just watch. But I do want you to feel encouraged to get involved. If you want, I can write an article for your magazine about Gabby's puzzles. I think people should be aware. I'm also excited for the ride-alongs. Yeah, definitely. Do you know the website? I'm going to put the website in. At the moment, we've just published an issue on the 22nd, so only 4 days ago, I think. It's the 26th today, is it? Uh-oh, my laptop. My laptop can't handle me doing too much at once. But yeah, feel encouraged to submit that. Are there any plans ahead for the Cove? I think a chat on Poetic Meter would be kind of cool. Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about Poetic Meter. I think, again, my own personal preference, I think Poetic Meter is maybe, for me, maybe even the core DNA of a poem. That I think that's what I look for in poetry anyway. Are there any plans ahead for the Cove? At the moment, it's difficult. I'll be honest with you, Nikki. At the moment, it's difficult. The forum's very quiet. There's only so much I can do. However, the magazine is doing really well. So at the moment, I'm just focused on the magazine because that's what's bringing in money for the Cove. That's what's keeping it alive. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm focusing at the moment. I do have some plans for the magazine moving into volume 3. I want to expand on the distribution. So it is a more... Okay, I'm just going to hold fire for a second. I'm just going to hold fire for a second and let the stream catch up because it said it went glitchy. That's what happens when I put in one little link in the chat box. Everything goes downhill. I don't know how much of that you might have got, but it said the stream was bad. So yeah, I'm going to just focus on the magazine at the moment and see what I can make out of that for the next volume and then reassess from there. But I'd love you guys to come over to the forum and kind of inject some life into it for sure. I'll send it in a few weeks. Wicked, I will definitely keep an eye out for it. For me, I tend to use syllabic meter rather than iambic. Fair enough. Quite a bit of free verse too. Yeah, fair enough. Iambic is my favourite because obviously I love Shakespeare and stuff. Syllabic is nice. Free verse, I do write a lot of free verse as well. But even in my free verse, I think it's important to read the lines out loud and work towards a nice flow off the tongue. I still think it's important in free verse. But that could also be a stylistic choice as well to make it not flow. If you're I don't know, just off the top of my head, if you're writing a poem about heartbreak or separation, it might be a stylistic choice to make the words sort of disjointed and hard to speak aloud. Just be very careful if you ever read it at an open mic. Make sure you've rehearsed it as much as possible so that even though it's broken and doesn't really roll off the tongue, you can still get it out. What are other people, what's everyone else's thoughts on meter in a poem? Is it as important as I think it is, or do you have a differing opinion? I'm going to go on this side of the chat. We'll probably only stay live for another 30 minutes, by the way, folks. Unless everyone's tired of the live stream, and we might be able to finish it sooner. But let's aim for another 30 minutes. Let's make it a 2 hour. Don't forget at any point, if you haven't already hit that like button, if you're watching this on a playback, hit that like button, leave a comment. I will come back and read over the comments and leave replies, so that even though the live stream has ended, the discussion can still go on. Skip ads. Do we still? Who did we lose at halftime? Do we still have Tanya? Do we still have Holly? I don't know. I know Fanny left. Just wondering, have any of you written poem for children? If you have, was it more difficult? You know, I actually planned a children's poetry video because they rack in a lot of views, but I never got round to doing. Obviously got Dr. Seuss. How do we say his name? Is it Dr. Seuss? Is it Dr. Seuss? I've heard it both ways, so unless I'm going out of my way to use form, my meter is really just intuitive free verse. Fair enough. If there's even such a thing. I think so, yeah. I think intuitive, yeah, of course, because even like our day-to-day speech can have a meter to it. But as I said, I still think it's important that even in free verse you consider how it rolls off the tongue. And there's a lot of poems in the Megan Fox collection that did just that. This is going to sound really bad, but I really, really struggle with meter. I don't know where to start. That's not bad at all. That doesn't sound bad at all. That's okay. As I've just said, you know, we speak with a meter in day-to-day life, unless you're awkward like me, who stumbles over their words all the time. But in all seriousness, we do have a natural meter to the way we talk anyway. Obviously, you've then got very, very structured meter. Haley, I know you're from the UK, right? So I say I know and question it at the same time. Well, sitting contradiction is what I am. But here in the UK, anyway, we get Shakespeare. We get Shakespeare ingrained in us, and with that iambic pentameter. Iambic is drilled into us. So that's a very considered meter. There's obviously syllabic, as Judge Def mentioned earlier as well. Trochaic is another one. But in free verse, when I say I think it should be considered in free verse as well, I just mean like how it sounds and how it rolls off the tongue. That probably didn't help you at all. It's getting late. I agree, I think having a nice flow, even in the free verse poem, is a good thing. I like meter and the absence of it too. Interesting. I like the unique format choices each poet makes and when people get creative with it. Yeah, absolutely. And I love personally sitting down and when I'm writing poems, just playing as much as possible, right? Just having fun with it. I think it's important to be consistent in the individual poem. I'm not one to stick rigidly to meter, but it can be hard to read consistency, isn't it? Yeah. And, you know, you can be reading a poem and meters go all over the place. I've read poems, my own poems, and I stop and think, what on earth happened there? And it's just jarring and you get stuck. That's why it's really important when you're writing poetry to read it out loud, especially if you plan on doing performance and reading it at open mics or doing whatever. It's important to read it out loud. The first is correct. Okay, Dr. Seuss, I've forgotten which one it is now. It should be pronounced like Zeus, I believe. Thank you. Well, Dr. Zeus. Okay, Dr. Zeus. Cool. Thanks, guys. You saved me on that one. I've learned a lesson there. What was I saying? Yeah, and sometimes going back to playing as well, sometimes, you know, you can have a meter throughout a whole poem and then just completely switch it up for one line to get a point across, depending on what that point is. And it may work, it may not work, but that's for you to decide in the editing process. On the odd occasion I use meter. I like to rock iambic tetrameter. Okay, very nice, very nice. Again, going back to me making this, when I'm writing in iambic, and this is why it's important to read it out loud and edit it, and this is why I said in the stream on Thursday, to always leave a week in between different editing drafts and phases, because there's been times when I've written in iambic and I get to draft 3 or something, and then suddenly I realize, oh, that's not iambic. I got that wrong. So, you know, I'd be going like something like, for example, dee-dum, dee-dum, dum-dee, dee-dum, dum-dee. I'd be like, hang on a minute, that's not right. On the odd occasion, I like the short and snappy lines, yeah. I see there's 11 people watching at the moment. Welcome back to the live stream if you're joining us for part 2, or welcome to the live stream, I should say. Should have started with that one. If you're just joining us, feel free to get involved in the chat. We're just talking about meter and what our thoughts are in using meter in poetry and how important it is, I guess, or unimportant, depending on where you stand with it. You sounded like the EastEnders Duff Duff. It was drunk. You sounded like the EastEnders Duff Duff. If it was drunk. I have to be honest with you. I'm not a soap opera watcher. Ooh. I don't watch EastEnders, so I'm not sure I understand. Duff. I always thought Duff was a beer in The Simpsons. Hi, Anneli. Welcome to the stream. So good to see you. We've got about another 20 minutes left, but that's okay. I'm glad you could join us. How are you? How's your weekend been? We're just talking about meter and how we use meter in our poems, or don't use meters in our poems. Also, Delgao asked if anyone's written poetry for children. I didn't see if anyone replied to that. Has anyone written any children's poems like Dr. Zeus? Or they're very popular on YouTube. If you've got any children's poems sitting in the drawer, you should consider recording them and getting a YouTube video out, because they do bring in a lot of views. Maybe I'll get back to that. I started a whole PDF document for children's poetry, but I never got round to it. Things kept getting in the way, and then I just gave up bothering to think about it. Thanks for keeping me company at work. Oh, no problem. No problem. Happy to. Happy to. I worked night shifts this weekend doing security for those who don't know. And it was a night shift. Did I say that? It's getting to that point in the evening, isn't it, folks? And I was watching true scary security guard stories, all these horror stories of security guards on night shifts. I just love adrenaline. I just love getting the adrenaline going. Hi, Nelly. I read your poem on the poetry. Oh, you did? Great. Cove, like we had talked about in the last stream. It was beautiful. It's the closing riff of each episode. Oh, Duff. Yeah, I still don't get it. Sorry. I don't get it. I'll have to look it up for next live stream so I can sing along with it. Whatever. Hi, Nelly. I haven't written any poetry for kids. I like to read Michael Rosen. His poetry for kids is really good. Okay, I'll have to look him up as well. I enjoyed your show, Adam. I will be able to participate here and there on Thursdays. Take care. No worries. Thank you very much, Renee, and have a good evening, and hopefully see you on Thursday. I work security guard in a harbour. Ah, another security guard. Excellent. Another poet security guard. We're very rare, Anneli. When we finish here, you should look up scary security guard stories. My mate goes on walks in the woods near his house and listens to the Maya's theme to walk faster. I love it. I listen to the Exorcist theme for fun. Sometimes I just sit there and listen to the Exorcist theme. I think it's a beautiful piece of music, to be honest with you. But I do love scaring myself, as you might have guessed with the On the Hunt videos. And I wish I didn't get it. The sofa-occupying teenager is obsessed. I'm lost on that one. Sorry, Nikki. What are we talking about there? I wish I didn't get it. Sofa-occupying teenager is obsessed. Is that something to do with EastEnders? Do you think meter hinders some poems? Have you come across any poem where you felt the meter ruined it? Only when the meter was inconsistent. Only when the meter was inconsistent. I'm losing my mind, folks. I looked at the microphone as if it was the camera and started talking to the microphone. Only when it's not consistent. If you've got a whole poem in iambic and then suddenly it changes to trochaic or whatever, then, well, first I'll look to see why that line is just completely changed meter. And if there's a reason behind it, I will decide whether I believe if it was warranted or not. But no, if a poem is consistent and has the same meter throughout, I've never found it to be a problem. Yet. Maybe there is a poem out there where I do feel that way, but no, I think a considered meter is one of my favourite things. Yeah, when you did the meter, da-dum-dee, you sounded like a drunken EastEnders duff moment. Okay. I still don't get it, but I'll take yours and Nikki's word for it that I made an EastEnders reference without meaning to. Alright, we've got about 15 more minutes, guys. If there's anything you want to ask or anything you want to bring up and talk about, please do. If you haven't already and you're watching in the shadows, please leave a like. It really helps the algorithm when this gets uploaded into a playback format. It really helps if it's got as many likes as possible. We're sitting on 14. So could we maybe at least get to 15? If there's anyone that hasn't liked the video yet, if we can get to 15 before the end of the stream, I'd be happy. I'd be really happy. And if you are enjoying the stream and you've already liked the video, let's try and spam that heart in the chat box just to let me know that you guys are still here and still awake and still willing to hang out for a little bit longer. And I'll keep going. If people are tired, it's 9:15 now anyway, so maybe people are a bit tired. It is 15. Oh, is it? On my screen it says 14. So ignore me then. Ignore me. Thank you for the love heart. I can see you spamming the love heart. Thank you so much. Great stuff. We will keep talking for another 15 minutes and see what happens. Baby Mango's giving us a wave. The harbour is a crude oil harbour, so the tankers are huge. Oh wow. Okay. Do you ever get any trouble, Anelli? Do you have any crazy security guard stories? I have quite a few. I used to do Patreon live streams once upon a time whilst working. Those were fun days back in the day. It's interesting that it says 15 on your page, Judge Death, but only 14 on mine. I had fun tonight. I enjoyed chatting with folk. Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate you guys spending, 2 hours with me. That's a lot of time. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Tell a security story. Oh man. Okay. Security story. Do you want crazy stuff, or do you want paranormal stuff, or just crazy bad side of human stuff? Well, not I won't. Well, there's bad side of humans. There's also just interesting side of humans, I guess. It says 9 people. Yeah, so we got 9 people watching, and it says 14 likes on my end, but I have a different display to you guys. Okay, security story. I'll tell you a paranormal one because I don't want to. I won't talk about humans. I don't know. That seems like it might be an invasion of privacy. Let me tell you about a paranormal one. Okay, so years and years ago, I used to work night shifts. Paranormal. Okay, cool. That's what I was going to go with anyway. I used to work night shifts. I used to do just nights. 12 hours throughout the night, and I used to look after one building. Somebody sent me a photo. Judge Dredd sent me a photo. Anyway, okay, so I used to look after an office building overnight, right? Just throughout the nights, only nights for the weekends. And there were so many times when I would be watching the cameras and lights would just turn on by themselves. So about 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, I'd go around and turn all the lights off and just secure the building, right? But early hours of the morning, maybe 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, lights would just turn on by themselves in various places in the building. And not all the time. Some nights were completely normal, but there were a few times when lights would just turn on. And then there were other nights where I'd just be minding my own business, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and a door would just slam. And obviously it's an empty building, not like abandoned. It was just, not in use over the weekends. So there was no one around, but I'd hear like doors slam and it would echo throughout the building, and I'd hear it down. I had like a security office. So that would happen every now and then. There are also times when I'd hear voices at like 3 in the morning. I'd kind of hear voices like as if they were walking towards me and there was no one in the building. But the craziest thing that happened on this particular building was we had like a big TV screen with lots of cameras, the monitor for all the cameras, and I was just standing there. I don't think it was that late. I think it was only about 10, 11 o'clock at night, but again, no one was around. And I'm standing there just watching the CCTV footage, and behind me were those like metal key safes, metal key boxes. I don't know if you've seen them. They got like little hooks about 100 hooks that keep all the different keys on them. Anyway, this, for whatever reason, this particular shift, this key safe was left open. They're normally closed, but this one was, on this shift, it was left open. But I was lazy. I didn't close it. I didn't think anything of it. You know, and my shift started, I think, at 7 o'clock. So it was open this whole time. Between 7 and, let's say, 10. It wasn't late. Let's say 10. 7 and 10, it was open, not a problem. And I was standing here. I decided to just review the cameras and the footage just to make sure that everything was fine. And it was, obviously. But as I was standing there reviewing the footage, this metal key safe slammed shut. And when I say slammed, like, it was slammed with such force that the keys shook inside and everything. And I just, I crapped myself. But I stood there and I just told myself to ignore it, pretend it didn't happen, and it'll go away. So I just stood there, chills. But yeah, that was kind of crazy. I've got loads of paranormal stories. That's why I do these on the hunt videos, because I enjoy this sort of stuff. But yeah, that was kind of crazy. That building was definitely had something going on. Wow, I'd have been out of there so fast. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if you guys have ever been in a situation where something weird has happened and you've just kind of fight or flight, right? Except I didn't fight and I didn't fly either. I just stood there. I was like, just ignore it. It didn't happen. Ignore it, and it would go away. But there was, that building definitely had some stuff going on inside it. I always felt like something was in the room with me and watching me, even if there wasn't anything going on. But that key safe, to this day, I can't explain, because you could say AC, right, air conditioning, but the force in which it slammed and the fact that it was completely fine for 3 hours, 4 hours or whatever, that key safe slammed with force. But yeah, and Nelly I'll catch up on the chat, and Nelly will tell you, as a security guard, you see some weird stuff, you experience some weird stuff. Yeah, it's an interesting job, that's for sure, especially night shifts. Delgo, writing for kids is not more difficult than writing for adults. One must just think that they don't understand ironic language. Yeah, but I also think children have a gut instinct for things as well. Like, they understand more than I think we give them credit for. Wow, I'd have been, yeah. Oh, they're so fast, yeah. Nope, that's what you get for listening to The Exorcist for fun. Yeah. You know, and they say the more you kind of do this stuff, the more in tune with it you are. And you know, I don't know if you guys believe in the paranormal. I certainly do. And I did it on the Hunt video from Christopher Marlowe. And I am convinced that night I was convinced that Christopher Marlowe's spirit was around, and I think even some people that the spirits of the people that murdered him too. If you watch that video, skip right to the end. It's a long video. You can skip most of it, to be quite honest. Skip to the part where I'm sitting there on my own doing the K2 in the spirit box. And just the way the K2, for those who don't know, the K2 registers like electromagnetic fields and stuff, and they say that spirits have that like electromagnetic field around them, and just the way that was spiking to certain answers. And that spirit box where at the end it says just 29, like, I promise you, watching this now, I had forgotten how old he was when he died. The way I do these videos, I either do the research and intro bit way before or way after. And this one I had done way before, and I had genuinely forgotten how old he was when he was murdered. And for the spirit box to pick up just 29, I know it says 29.99. The way the spirit box works is they say that it scans radio frequencies, and they say the way it works is spirits talk, and the words come through on multiple radio stations. Now, this location was just outside central London, so there are so many radio frequencies going through that thing. Also, how many deals are going on at any one time? Just $5.99, just $2.99. For it to say just $29.99, which is the age that he died, I think is crazy. At least in my eyes, it's crazy. That video for me was a big thing. Anyway, the reason I said that was because I said the more you do these things, the more in tune you get. And a lot of stuff was sort of happening and after that video. But then I stopped doing paranormal videos for a while, and it kind of went dormant again. But that's that. That's that. Those doors are heavy. Yeah, they're not light. Adam, are you Meteor? I think I am. But I don't acknowledge it. I don't personally want to unlock things. So I try not to. I don't invite it. Yeah, there is a familiar bond over time with spirits when you are in the same place. Yeah. Oh, Kaylee retracted a message again. Are you okay, Kaylee? Anyway, I enjoyed that. As I said in the last live stream, they're really difficult videos to make, but I do enjoy like bringing my passion for poetry and my interest in paranormal and bringing it together. And as I say, it gets me to cool places. You know, in the 5 or 6 videos that I've made, I've been to cool places for it. So okay, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up there. It's almost 9 o'clock, so it's been 2 hours. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you all enjoyed this one as much as the last live stream. I think we got a good discussion going twice today. I hope you enjoy it, and the next stream will be on Tuesday. It's going to be a little bit earlier. Tuesday's going to be 5 p.m. my time. It's already scheduled, so if you go to my channel, go to community and find the post, there's a link for it. Go there now, turn on the notify me button so you don't miss it. And I genuinely really appreciate you guys spending 2 hours with me and just hanging out and just talking about mostly poetry things. We got into the paranormal a little bit there again, and I hope to see you on Tuesday. Thank you so much. If you have anything you think would be a good idea to bring to the table on Tuesday, please don't be afraid to. I need you guys as much as my own research to find topics, so please do have a think, and have a good evening, everyone. Have a good week. Have a good Monday. Tomorrow's Monday. It's the start of the week. I'm going to struggle getting out of bed, but we all got to do it. We're all in it together. So see you later, guys. Thank you.